So anyone that thought last week was a little bit slow will not have that problem with this week, because we are doing one scene every 2 minutes. We're in and out, we're chopping between everyone. We get a little bit of everyone this week.
It feels like it's been a while since I've just had a relatively normal episode, because I know at least the last two were special episodes.
I'd call this episode the moving forward episode or moving on episode.
Yeah, the past two have definitely been very serious, very deep character moments, very dramatic. And it's been nice, especially with Mark and Devin getting back together. We get the Goofy back.
I reckon we start off with Helly, because she starts off the episode. We get her swimming in a pool and then hanging out with dear old dad.
Father.
They're still on the property.
Yes, just across the road, basically, other side of the water tower.
Yes, or that very heavily emphasised water tower.
That probably means nothing.
Yeah, who knows?
And it's such a cozy, warm, loving house, isn't it?
It's horrifying.
Honestly, it's how I feel looking at a lot of the Kardashian houses when they renovate them. I'm like, this is so empty, cold, and white. What are you doing? You have so much money.
Money doesn't buy taste
Style.
or style.
Yeah, it's cold and empty, just like her childhood, because this kind of confirms that she lives with her dad, but there is no love there at all. And he definitely seems to hate her with the whole fetid moppet thing.
Fetid moppet.
A lot of people were like, oh, is it because he was mad at her for one thing? It seems like he's always just kind of been like this. And
It's because it's like, oh, you're the person who's going to get my job. It means the inevitable
Could be,
end. Or
yeah.
because you're here, it means eventually I have to give up my position.
that's if they ever die.
Yeah.
I did think, this isn't human. He's not alive. The way he talks,
He
the way he
seems
looks
dead
at
or
her.
about to die.
Yeah, because she seems more capable of conversation, at least to be aware, to be act like she's friendly with Mark when she's in the Chinese. She has that social awareness where I feel like Jame could never pretend to be anything other than what he is.
I do wonder if he was so against any sort of paternal instinct of being a parent that he just decided to get someone else to raise her, and that's why she's so different. We're born in a maid and they're actually human and nice and have a warm heart, and that's why you look slightly different.
All severed maids and butlers.
He's cut himself off from all emotions, and I guess parenting would involve some emotions.
Yes.
So
Definitely. Mainly
whether
anger.
it's getting worse and worse as the generations go on, or whether Helly's just different because she's a girl, who knows? She's definitely had no one and nothing, which I guess is why they start with the pool, because it's a lap pool, her just going back and forth, like her doing the same thing every day with a big clock on the wall.
And also water.
Love the water. Unless there's
Water
a drop
everywhere.
of blood, maybe.
On a Mondays day.
Because Cold Harbor is meant to be finished today. That was the promise. And Cold Harbor, they built it up massively to begin with, and we thought it was the biggest thing ever. And then the theories kind of came in, and it seemed like it wouldn't change much. That they're treating it big, but it won't actually be big. But this episode definitely puts a lot more emphasis on Cold Harbor.
And the next episode is called Cold Harbor.
Cold Harbor is the biggest thing ever. So it's not just another mode for Gemma. Surely it can't just be Gemma experiencing death or going through traumatic experiences.
Because that's
like
what they
that.
say. They go, if you've completed Cold Harbor, she's already dead. So it's almost like her use or something. Why must it be these two people to make Cold Harbor?
Yeah, that's the question. Because is it brain death, or is it the Gemma as we know it is dead, or is she actually dead because they'll discard her? We still don't know, but Cold Harbor is built up to be absolutely massive.
Cold Harbor bigger than Kier? ?
I mean, it seems on the level of bringing Kia back. That's how they're treating it.
The only thing we don't have proper context of in that opening intro is baby Kia crawling along the floor. Everything else, even now with Cobel, we were watching it today and went, oh yeah, of course, Cobel with the book of her plans.
the creator kind of deal.
Yeah,
my designs!
it's all hers. So there seems to be a linearity to that in terms of the reveals of the, Irving's cup and all that stuff. So maybe then now the last thing is that baby Kia. That maybe Cold Harbor is to do with that.
And Helly and Miss Casey teleporting between each other in the elevator. That's another thing we don't know. The rest of the scene's just really creepy, because he's on the verge of death, it seems. She has one boiled egg, cut into 6, and then slowly eats a piece of that at a time after they've been arranged.
And tries to have
perfectly.
conversation. Almost. She attempts conversation.
But it's also framed around that little boy on the plate. I don't know if that's a...
Little boy being held down by 2 people or torn apart by 2 people.
Yeah.
If you go in symbolism, I guess you go Mark as the guy
divorce.
being pulled apart by 2 people, or Helly being pulled apart by Helena and the one she's meant to be, or just held down by everyone. I don't know.
We get a horrific line from Jame that, to be honest, I didn't even know how to react. We were both so creeped out by the...
We should take them raw.
Give it to us raw and
The use of the word take
Yes.
next
And
to
the
raw,
raw, yeah.
absolutely horrible, crawled inside myself.
There has to be that like feeling from that, like not only from the simple raw eggs like fucking Rocky in Rocky 1.
You know, he used to drink 3 raw eggs and milk each morning.
That's what Kia used to do. He used to have 3 raw eggs and milk for breakfast in the morning. He wishes she was more like Kia, so I guess she's not.
Yeah, wish we were more godly,
She's
more
not
pure.
as egan as the rest of them. Like maybe he has his eggs raw, although he just wants to watch.
I'll watch.
Is another creepy line. She's like, "Will you eat?" And he says, "No, I will watch." Disgusting.
We get a nod to his further creepiness. We have Cobel and Devon trying to sneak Mark into the birthing suites, and it's this pretend that it's one of James.
She's one of James. No one's to know.
We don't know what that
Yeah.
means. Like, is it like someone who's pregnant, or if it's someone who he has them come in to then abuse their innies and then off they go again? I don't know.
I definitely took it because she's holding her stomach, so it's
Yeah,
definitely James gets people pregnant, whether Elon Musk style has never had sex in his life, boom, or whether James is out there breeding. I don't know.
Yeah.
James has a breeding kink. Google James Egan breeding kink.
No, that's the question. Is it that he just has just a giant sperm bank of him?
I'm the greatest human of all time. I'm going to get as many people pregnant as
We're never going to
possible.
have anyone jumping normal ever again.
Whether Helena is one of them, we've never met her mum, so whether she's a product of that or whether he got Cobel pregnant at one point because they were roughly the same age, judging by old photos and stuff. Again, it's just super culty.
Ties back again to the FLDS stuff. So many of them were like just popping everyone out, getting any woman 500 different wives.
We finally get Helly instead of just Helena. And she gets back into work and she's so pumped to be at work because maybe Mark will be here today. Because I thought about Helly's timeline. Helly has sex with Mark. Mark has a nosebleed. Mark goes home. Mark doesn't come back the next day. And then she rocks up. So like her timeline is once again insane.
For me, completely forgot. I mean, obviously, I remember they had sex, but that was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, so just the way they've paced out the episodes, maybe it's a bit like, oh yeah, like what were they up to again?
That's why this episode's weird because yeah, we see absolutely everyone doing everything after 2 episodes where we don't see everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
2 back to back is a lot.
yeah, 2 back to back where we haven't then went back to formula.
To formula.
And then structurally, this episode is, we really do cut between absolutely everyone, and we're going back and forth. We don't sit with anyone for overly long. I think the longest scenes we get are with Irving and Bert. It's an interesting choice not to elongate those scenes and to really hammer them out between. I don't know whether that was to make sure the pace fills up, because this is a heart attack of an episode. Like, you're going the whole time.
I love the season overall. I actually genuinely am enjoying it. I don't have too many gripes. That most do.
No.
The only thing that I really hated this episode, and yeah, I don't know if I loved the pacing. I don't know if the editing was its strong point. There were some really awesome moments, really cool transitions, some really great editing choices.
Dylan walking down the corridor really fucked you off.
Obvious
Yeah.
pickups. They had really obvious pickup of Dylan deciding, fuck this place, which
I don't know
absolutely,
if that's a pickup. That was,
it was green screen to hell.
for me, it just felt like this from somewhere else that they've just put there because of the jumpy episode format.
Compared to everything else, it felt so flat. And also, we then immediately, after having another scene intercut, go back to him signing resignation letters. So I'm like, why did we need him standing in a hallway saying, fuck this? Like, I get that if he's signing a resignation letter, he's over it. You know, he's just threatened to resign before.
Yeah,
so,
that's fair. And it is just, another reason to cut.
only gripe.
I'm not a huge fan of episodes of anything where it is so intercut. I do like sitting with characters for at least a little while.
We aren't so iPad baby.
Well, we're talking about Dylan. Let's talk about Dylan. This is such a heartbreaking episode for like almost every character.
For both Dylans, almost.
Yes. So Dylan's first bit is when Gretchen decides to come clean about making out with Innie Dylan, which fair enough. She doesn't seem like a super complex lie person. Like, this is not her.
Yeah. Open and genuine.
Made a mistake, realistically.
And just the weirdness of like every person's a different perspective. Like maybe somebody thinks a severed person is it's just you and you don't have your memories.
It's you when you're drunk.
Yeah, but other people think of it as being two
different
separate
person.
people altogether.
And
yeah.
that's probably why she was a bit more relaxed in saying it. She was kind of like, look, this happened. Sorry
But
about
she
it.
still felt guilty.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
also didn't want to sketch him out too much. But it's the most interesting thing that you can only do with Severance is the whole, like, people will have different views on it. Like, if people believe there's a soul and that, like Fields, you believe that the Innie soul is different to the outie soul, then you'd be like, okay, that is cheating. And that's assuming you also believe that when you're in a relationship, it's your soul and their soul, not just like their body, because obviously the body's the same.
And the level of like advantage taking, that she knows who he is, she knows
a baby.
Exactly. Then she's making out with someone who doesn't have any foreknowledge, doesn't know what their relationship's like.
Yeah.
So, but I can get it that if you've been in like a 20-odd year relationship and then you get to see him and he's like, you're the only thing that matters. I don't have anything else but looking forward to these meetings. It would probably be a little bit flattering. And
yeah, she even brings that up where she's like, he reminds me of how you used to be.
Yeah.
Really kind of cringe moment where Dylan gets down on one knee and asks Gretchen, will you subscribe to Bergenbeard?
And then she says no. And then he drops to his knees and screams, subscribe!
I felt like he overreacted completely.
That's the way he reacts to things because he's not emotionally ready for that right now. And also, that's an insane thing to be told. It's not you and your best friend talking and they're like, oh, I kissed you when you're drunk.
I also lied about it initially, so I said it was cancelled. Actually,
I think that's what's so interesting. It's so complex of a situation because how is he going to react? And also, he was on his way to work, and him as a character isn't equipped to deal with things and talk to his wife. Yeah. He's fallen out of that part.
I felt like this was just a downfall of Dylan and I disliked it. I think, yes, it can be a complex situation, but he's so emotionally immature, as you say, that he's not willing to discuss it. And I just think it's, I don't know, for me, yes, I guess that's the thing, the characters' perspectives, they might see two different souls, but why is it that big of a deal? It's actually still you. It's still your temperament. It's still it's still that.
That's the way you view it. A lot of people will view it as she was cheating on Dylan with another person. Because he is, for all intents and purposes, to some people, a different person.
Yeah, which is what's an interesting talk.
Yeah, and that's the coolest thing about it. Like, I reckon it would probably almost be 50-50 with, like, people in camps.
I don't know why this is my one, like, there's no grey area here. It's fine.
That's why it's so interesting, because, like, you're semi on the opposite side with Helly and Helena. Like, you view them as very different people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So you're going back on your own thing here.
Dylan isn't, to me, that different,
but it went through the exact same process.
I think it felt like the whole point was Gretchen saying, I'm the reason you're so lame and you suck because every time you meet me, you become unmotivated, you don't care, you've proposed, that's all you care about now, and now you're going to resign just because you started having meetups with your wife. I'm not that big of a deal. Why are you blowing up your whole life for this? And I felt like that really threw her off with the proposal.
And I think Lumen were only doing this because Cold Harbor was the end goal. So they knew that giving Dylan his visitations is bad because you give a severed person something more than the work. So now they lose motivation if they don't get that anymore. But they thought, if it's just for like a week and a half and then we just shut the whole thing down.
He's there because Mark's there.
Because this was bound to happen because, in my opinion, you know, those emotions which were told, like when Mark is told by Peter, you still carry the pain down there. So you can only imagine that when Dylan sees her, there is the body reaction of, there's the woman I love. So he does love her.
The tragic thing about Dylan for me is we always viewed him as like a go-getter from the beginning. We were like, okay, he's looking for stuff. That's why he's trying to collect all these rubbers and finger traps and stuff. But I think they've now shifted that completely, and he's always looking for purpose. And he has no purpose as outie Dylan, but as Innie Dylan, he's always been looking for purpose, which was the little crap that he could win. But turns out his new biggest purpose is his wife.
Yeah.
So it's like he's now put everything on her. So it's like he really is an all or nothing kind of person.
So he's basically killing himself. He's
committing seppuku for sure because finger traps mean nothing to him now, which means the work means nothing. And if he can't have the one thing he wants, he doesn't want to exist anymore. The tragicness of this arc is I kind of feel it's almost over. I could never see Dylan again because he committed seppuku and he's done. Like him and Irving are both pretty interesting because they feel done. Irving does leave behind a shit ton of questions, whereas Dylan is definitely more like self-contained. He could just not rock up next season and it would be sad, but he had everything. We went through everything with Dylan. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought him back because he's a fan favorite and everything, but I think it is weirdly concise and like done now.
I think we might see more outie Dylan next week, but then I do feel like the focus will be the Mark stuff next week.
It also feels like MDR is over. We're not doing MDR anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's just him down there, so there weren't any of the copycat people. It was just the weird, obsessive man who was going, the numbers aren't moving.
Yes, because I guess no one else was working.
MDRs only existed for this or something.
Yeah, which again is the weirdness of why they needed these 4 people if we only cared about one of them. Was it just happenstance? Were they doing something important and then Mark was better?
Or it's like they're there for him, like he needs certain
morale,
characteristics in his office to
He
stay
needed a best
focused.
friend, he needed a funny guy.
Yeah, someone to be competitive with.
A stickler.
You know, a stickler for the rules and a best friend.
Dylan would be the one to be competitive with, yeah, and then
rules.
make sure Mark follows the rules, and then a best friend figure. But Helly kind of fucks that up. I like that way more than the tempers stuff that people
I
have talked
wonder
about
if
in
it's
the past.
that. It's all just built around Mark.
I love that. And then obviously Helly was doing it for corporate reasons, but fucked absolutely everything up. Which is what happens when corporate gets involved.
Unless it's undercover boss.
Oh.
Through her pride, she thought she'd go down and do that.
So it's like either she thought, I'm lovable, like, even though we know she's
Then
not.
they obviously have other MDRs because we saw those other people.
Oh, yes, in other countries doing other things.
So they must have other MDRs doing similar things.
So MDR does something.
Yeah.
For some reason, Mark is just really
Or
important.
maybe that's it, like they're all doing similar things where we need one person who's got some special thing.
Potentially.
And then we need to build it around.
They brought in 3 offsiders for Mark. Maybe they were meant to fill in the role.
So you get maybe being kind of like maybe a friendly or love interest for him.
You get old guy was the stickler.
Yeah, maybe there is some kind of like we need there to be a kind of
It's a formula.
a formula balance for him to get locked in with.
Back to formula.
I like it. It doesn't explain at all why Mark is so important.
No.
But I like that.
Or what they are doing with their folders.
Yeah, or what the numbers are, whether they're just... Because Helly isn't just fucking around with numbers because she gets the same emotional reaction. So I'm so glad that we've answered 0 questions, but have come up with a cool theory.
Yeah, I did feel bad for old Dylan. Like, you know, poor guy. I think also it would highlight the insanity of the situation to know that you've got a wife up there and then you're trapped down here, but you're not trapped down here because it would fuck with it more.
Again, that's the insane things this show can do. It doesn't seem like it wants to, and obviously it would get way too busy story-wise if they went into all of these things, but it's interesting that they can, like, touch on it and make you go, huh, I wonder.
You know it's your fault we're down here at all, right?
Helly and Dylan have a little chat where Dylan's a dick to Helly because he's obviously just been hurt and he's on the verge of ending it all. I'm being a dick to you because my Audi's a dick, so I must also be a dick, even though Dylan's never really been like a dick. Like he's snarky, but yeah, he's putting a show on.
He's never rude to someone. He's always just...
He could be blunt.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. He's taking on the role he thinks his Audi is, and then that's also triggering Helena a little bit because she, again, doesn't not want to be like her Audi at all. She does try to pull rank with Milchick.
Yeah, she's definitely trying to be rebellious still. She runs in wanting to know where Mark is and is being like, oh, did you meet Helly E?
Yeah.
I'm your superior. And then he's like...
And then Milchick is like,
shut
no,
up, bitch."
not at all. Milchick is in the you are definitely different people camp. Because he has to, because otherwise he has to listen to Heli, so that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. I wrote down Alexa play Too Little Too Late by JoJo for Helly and Dylan talking, because I'm like, I just feel like now all I see is Helena bleeding into her of like she's being manipulative to him, like, no, but actually, because I get her perspective.
I view that as completely sincere.
It is sincere because she just wants Mark, and so everything she's saying to Dylan applies to her situation with Mark.
Yes, but Dylan's also a friend and she's trying to comfort him.
I don't take it as comfort at all.
Oh, really?
I take it purely as manipulation to get him to be joining her to go and get the stuff.
That's crazy to me. Cut to that face.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about it because as soon as she said to him, she's obviously not worth it if she's going to say that. She says what a friend says to people when they break up.
Yeah, you're a great guy. You'll meet someone down here. Like, keep working down here because otherwise the alternative is he dies.
I think it starts that way. It starts as like a
you just
friend
hate
thing.
Helly too much.
No, I get that. And I kind of warmed up a little bit to this episode, but I feel like she starts being nice and then she's saying things that feel, again, what she wants to hear someone saying to her.
Yes, but that's not being mean to
There's
Dylan.
layers,
No.
there's layers to that
I'm not
conversation.
saying she's
for
mean
sure.
to him, but I definitely feel like she's laying it on a little too thick because she's like, I need someone. If Mark's not here, I guess I'll have to have you and we can go get the thing behind the poster and keep fucking around.
Well, that thing behind the poster is a way to help Mark, like, just because Mark's not there. I'd say any manipulation is her trying to manipulate herself, not him. So she's trying to convince herself of something rather than actually hurt Dylan anyway.
No, I'm not saying she's trying to hurt
until
him,
Dylan
no,
lashes
yeah.
out, and then she's just like, oh man. I thought for a bit there when we saw Dylan walking down the hallway that he actually might decide to go help Helly And I think maybe that was why they put that there. I was like, oh, he's going to decide, fuck this place, I'm going to go discover the hallway thing that Irving told me, because that's what him and Helly were discussing. But it's, fuck this place, I'm going to go seppuku.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah. So I'd say that's why that scene is put there. And I think it does work. I just don't love that it's another scene, him walking down a hallway, another scene. But functionally, it does work.
Which was a bit disappointing. I was a bit disappointed. I was ready for some...
Build your hopes up that you're going to get somewhat of the band back together to go fight the power. But instead, he's giving in, he's succumbing, he's potentially dead until they decide to bring him back.
Yeah.
I do feel like the getting our hopes up, what's going to happen next, kind of does play into the end scene with Irving on the train leaving, because so many times I was waiting for the reveal of Bert did sneak on the train with him, because we just kept cutting back.
After Dylan goes off into the long night, Helly decides to take it upon herself to go rescue Miss Casey, save Mark's wife, or at least help Mark, or discover more about what's going on at the very least.
Just do something.
Probably cause the downfall at the very least, because she hates herself.
It brings a whole new meaning to hate herself.
She goes and gets Irving's map on the elevator to go find out where it is. It is a weird thing that she didn't just follow it.
I was thinking that, like, why was she trying to memorize instead of not just simply walking with it?
I assume so they could have this scene.
Or the fear of her being seen with it, and then they'd go, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, but they've never searched them on the floor, so that is strange. It feels like it really is for this scene.
Jame appears.
The spookiest man in the world.
And he goes, my Helly, or...
He says, you lied to me, my Helly.
The only time he's ever seemed, like, relatively normal and caring was when it was Helly.
Right.
So Helena never got that version, because he thought it was Helena, or at least we assume he thought, because when I heard what she did to you,
yes,
yeah, I felt so bad. And then obviously the rest, he's been really dry to her. So then all of a sudden he's like, my Helly. I'm like, does he view this, because he's been brought up in a fucked up way, that the severed version is more like a daughter, because she's purer, yeah.
Even though not at all. I can explain the you lied part, because that's no one told Jame that it wasn't Helena, it was Helly. Because remember how after the Ort bow, they swapped back to the real Helly, and she said, do we tell my dad? He said, we're not telling father at all. So Jame thought it would be Helena on the floor, but it was Helly. Why he's down there, I don't know.
Do you think it was Jame all the way down there in episode 1, like watching Mark from the distance?
There's no way that was Jame, as far as like a sensical reason why. Because why would he like be hovering there and then like quickly move away? Yeah. This man cannot move quickly.
Bert.
No pigeons in the news.
Who cares?
Richmond, Virginia, 40 pigeons.
Irving heads home, finds Bert there.
Creepy as hell, but also get that dog an Oscar. That was the most dramatic head turn ever. He's just so calmly sitting there, and then he just...
That is a experienced dog actor. He played Mondale in Succession.
Oh, so he's a dramatic dog actor.
And did we see that today? Okay, he was on point.
On full display. Poor Irving has been working so hard this season to get his Oscar as like best supporting actor. Only to be taken by a dog. It's really unfortunate, honestly.
Go for a ride with me.
Come on, man. Just come for a ride with me. It seems earnest, but is obviously still so creepy that in the moment you're like, you just have no idea. It feels like he's being kind.
Yeah, because for half a second I expected it was going to be Drummond.
Right,
since he was last in there.
Yep, sitting in the dark.
So he takes to the train station, which then made me think, oh, is there like a deeper meaning to the New York train station, like pop-up advertisement when they were in the New York train station?
Busy place,
If there is a reason to it, because here we are in a train station. Reminded me a bit of one of my favourite films called Weekend, but it's just about two gay fellas you meet over a weekend, and one of them is going to go to LA, so they just kind of like have a great weekend together, and at the end it ends with them at a train station, and it's just kind of basically just two gay guys in a train station. That reminds me of that other two gay guys at a train station.
That's gaysist.
Yeah, but isn't it just because trains can symbolize new beginnings?
A lot of things. Yeah, leaving. Yeah,
train going whole.
Wow.
Take that raw.
We should take them raw.
It's a very intense scene of them driving together. Irving staring out the window because he doesn't know if he's going to go die. The notes that Bert is reading through say that Bert Goodman is probably a goon. And it's just them being such good actors, like laughing at the fact that he wouldn't call himself a goon because he was a driver, he reveals. He did what he's about to do. He used to drive people that Lumen didn't want to be around anymore. He would take them somewhere and leave them there. And who knows what happens next? He doesn't say. It could just be he drove them into the forest and then left them and then they died themselves. It could be he left them with a shovel and made them dig it. He didn't kill them, he says. He makes sure to say, I never killed anyone, but he knew what he was doing was bad because he feels guilty about it. And that's why he actually severed himself. Because he did actually believe that his innie could go to heaven. And it's just interesting there that, they're not devout Kia believers, but that was his job. And he actually believes in heaven and hell, and that innies do have different souls. So it's like they were never lying at dinner. They were just omitting the fact that he worked for Lumen for so long. And it's just beautiful watching them hang out. And Irving's never had love before. And now Irving has love. And he's ready, as he says, which is sad. I think it mirrors, I think he might say he's not ready for love when he's on the severed floor.
And they kind of have that closeness. There is that, like, when they get closer
in the greenhouse or whatever. Yeah, they get really close together. Yeah, so, like, they weren't ready there. Obviously, it's not that he remembers, it's just that they're the same person. And he's ready for love now, but he will never get love because it's kind of the Gretchen situation again, but more different. It's his innie fell in love with another man, whereas he in real life has a relationship already, and he's not about to give that up, but it's like semi an affair.
Yeah.
Again, just something else incredibly interesting, that if the innocent part of him fell in love with Irving, then obviously Irving is a good person, or at least that's religiously how he views that. And because it's different and his husband's okay with it, he's like, I'm glad that our innies fell in love, but my outie is with another man. We can't do that. We can't. And it's so intense, so dramatic, and I love it so much. And then Irving rides off into the sunset. And you could also call that over.
I feel like Irving's more over than Dylan. I mean, he's literally getting on a train and looking happily out the window.
But Irving also leaves more questions.
Yeah, he does.
Because who was he working for? Who was he on the phone to? And does any of that even matter?
I was, again, half expecting the reveal with cutting back to that train so much that Bert was going to go with him, and season 3 for them was going to be having Lumen on a goose chase trying to track them down. Even though I guess what would they want from them, you know?
Yeah.
Bert was meant to get rid of him the way he used to, I assume. Whether he had to get rid of them because of a threat or whether he actually does still work for them, I don't know. I don't think it matters.
Surely love's going to conquer all and he'll eventually get bored wherever he is and come back in season 3.
It totally could, because again, we don't know what's even happening in season 3.
What else would there be for Irv to do? He'd be
Well,
wanting
he
to
would
come
just
back.
he would just not be in it anymore.
I know,
because
but-
he's done.
In world, as the character, why would he want to stay away? If the only thing he's ever experienced is love with this person, why wouldn't he at least go and fight for
He's ready for love
rebellion?
now.
I know.
He's ready for love now.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
he
guess fresh start,
will
yeah.
find love in
Somewhere
the new era.
else.
Because he was busy doing conspiracies and stuff in his first life.
Yeah, it's the Mr. Milchick stuff was probably my favourite stuff this episode, and I think he's a great actor. I think you were saying, or you saw that, like, Jordan Peele has to be...
Jordan Peele's got to get this guy for the next horror film he does.
And he's also great at doing the two sides thing, which is what Jordan Peele loves.
I think he'd be really good, and surely we'll get something off of this because he's such a good actor and does so much with it. But he more or less fires Huang.
No, Huang finishes.
Yeah, but
finishes
she's
the
like, I thought I'd
fellowship.
finish out the quarter. But it's to do with Cold Harbor, maybe. So they told her that.
Yeah,
but then
maybe
since
it all
Cold
was meant to
Harbor's
wrap
done-
up today.
Yeah.
I took it as him preemptively being like, I'll get her out the way so I can have a peaceful final day.
Yeah.
She's not going to be around. We get to celebrate. But then Mark doesn't turn up.
She's some kind of child genius.
But the way she acted towards him when she said, I thought I'd have more, and she seems quite surprised. I was like, maybe it wasn't as personal for her as maybe he took it as.
She is just a kid.
She suddenly became innocent, like, oh, I thought we were just like playing about here, doing the Severed stuff.
I think moving on is scary, which is why I call this the moving on episode, because everyone kind of moves on to either the next phase or completely. And she is moving on, and yeah, for a child especially, the unknown is very scary.
I thought on the bus we'd see like 8 other children from different like regions or whatever, but no.
She's basically finished her scholarship, and she has to destroy her childhood folly.
Which is interesting considering it is a depiction of Keir. So you're using the bust of Jame to destroy an image of him. So in this like religious situation, the idea of like just destroying, you know, even though it's a comedic image, it's still an image of him. So I just thought, and then like the emphasis on like where Mr. Milchick goes, this, how he's kind of like slightly, you know, turning potentially.
It's Mr. Milchick getting back at her almost as well. So it's like, even though, yes, I guess it is an image of Kia, I don't know whether that matters more to her or him, or whether it was just a game to her, and to him it is her toy, so I'm going to make you break it, because remove that childhood folly, because maybe this happened to him. And also, it's very religious again, like, needing sacrifice to move on to the next phase.
For my interpretation of that, again, us as being teachers and going through the joys of learning about like the history of education and the psychology and how so solely based it is in the factory system, and that it's, you know, stuff goes in and goes out quickly.
About kids every year.
And the whole last episode was looking at the factory system and child labor. To me, this whole scene just felt very like symbolic of like the school system, and that she's now out of this, you know, Wintertide fellowship, and she's going on to just be a regular old person in the, like a cog in the machine. And for that, you have to kill all creativity, all fun, all joy. Like, you do not get to be, it's a loss of innocence moment for me.
Yeah, I think the empathy center is the opposite of an empathy center. It's like a removing empathy center.
Your bed will be moved from your parents' home to the Gunnell Egan Empathy Center in Svalbard.
Yeah, they're all about destroying emotions. So yeah, she's not going to be her when she comes back.
Yeah.
And maybe she knows that.
She already had a lot of walls up anyway.
This is the episode where she broke down most of those walls.
Yeah.
Because I guess, terrified of the unknown, not sure what's happening next. She's getting removed from her parents as well.
Then we get probably my favourite scene is that it's Milchick with Mr. Drummond. It's all kind of breaking down, right? That like the workers are pushing it against Milchick, like Helly was giving it to Milchick, and so now Milchick is giving it to his person, and you kind of realising there's just layers and layers of people doing kind of bullshit jobs.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got a boss.
It's corporate America, baby.
Yeah, like everyone's got a boss coming down on them.
Yeah, and that isn't a good thing.
No, exactly.
Isn't the corporate ladder thing just like people constantly pissing on the next person?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that normally the illustration?
Well, yeah.
Human Centipede. And then the all-time best bumper sticker that I assume everyone's going to have as of next week.
Devour feculence.
I wonder how many people were getting on their phones, like typing in like what it means before he says, it means eat shit.
Yeah, because that scene popped up. You literally said, what does that mean in the beat between?
Yeah.
To which my brain was like, devour, well, it's eat. So he's going to be saying, and then we basically almost said eat shit at the same time.
Yeah.
I felt very powerful.
It was very good. And then, like you hit him with the whole, it's not my fucking job to know what they're doing outside of work.
Yeah.
My job is to have them do it when they're in work. If they're not in work, what am I supposed to fucking do?
It seems like Drummond is kind of, he's one above, but he's also taking care of them outside. Well, he's stalking people and breaking into their homes.
Yeah, but he's not. Where the fuck has he been looking after Mark, the most important one? He's not keeping an eye.
Well, I guess they thought we've heard with Cobel was next door. That was him covered.
Yeah.
I guess the Irv stuff is an excuse as to why he's not going around getting Mark, because he's distracted with Irving.
It was really interesting to see Milchick do that. And then when he goes back downstairs after saying that, Mark rings up to give his bullshit, I'm just sick today. And then he goes,
we'll pick you up. You're really important.
Yeah, he goes, I just need the day, fuck off.
I really feel like that scene in the office, like they physically have him turn his back. And I'm like, oh, beautiful, because this is going to be it. This is the moment that Milchick's going to start getting on side. And he stares at the painting. He has a bit of reflection. And, oh, do I want him to join forces with them?
I don't think he'll join forces so much in like a heroic way.
No,
but it'll be
Empathy
like,
is cracking.
It's no I'm the spy moment.
Yes.
It'll probably be well, I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to be participating, but there's going to be a moment where I can stick my foot out while someone's running, kind of a
Or
thing.
they'll ask something of him, like Lumen will ask something of him where he's the only one that can do it, and he says no because work-life balance.
Yeah, because they've been setting this up with obviously the Black Erasure stuff and all that stuff, where he clearly it's bothered him a bit too much the past few weeks.
It's been chipping away at him episode after episode.
Yes.
It's a good thing Mark called after he told Drummond to eat shit, because beforehand he might have been like, damn it, Mark, come on, get to work. But yeah, after having to tell Drummond to eat shit, he really is just like, oh, and Mark dropping the act of not just being sick and saying he just needs the day.
Personal life
probably
stuff.
hit pretty hard. Probably hit pretty hard for Milchick, because he never seems to take a day off. We've been talking every week about this man doesn't rest. And then the whole thing of Kia is meant to be balance, and he has none of that. So it's slowly taken away. He's like, okay, if we're pitching Severance as work-life balance, Milchick has nothing. Symbolism-wise, looking at the artwork, it's like an iceberg. So it's like the top of the iceberg is what we see of Milchick, or what the company wants Milchick to be, is like very surface level. Whereas like under the iceberg is, he's a person.
Well, it's what Irving was saying to him, and I wouldn't in that moment want to, when Irving says, you aren't severed, and maybe in Milchick's mind he'd want to go, yeah, but you get to turn off. I fucking don't. Like, I have to live this 24/7.
Yeah. It is interesting that they managed the Never Severed.
They need to, I guess, know what's going on.
If you remember in season 1, that is briefly a question, right?
Yeah, whether Cobel is...
Is Cobel severed? Like, she's this florist woman. Probably our favourite shot was Dylan weighing out the elevator and his
beautiful.
head.
I loved it so much.
There was some amazing shots.
Yes. Is this a cinematographer chick again?
I also felt this episode was shot a lot nicer, or like, not a lot nicer, I guess. This episode especially stood out, and I wasn't in love with last week, especially because it was too dark and murky for me. That was the whole point. It was this like derelict town, but it just didn't do it for me, whereas this episode was gorgeous. Like, I loved absolutely every shot in this.
Yes.
I agree it's better, but I still think the last one was still good compared to other things.
We've all said it, and I think it already coincidentally, unless they've CG'd it, how the parking lot in the building resembles a brain.
Yeah, there was this big
I
fuck
keep
off
thinking
establishing
fallopian
shot.
tube.
No, a different shot. It's like, it's literally circular, and then it's got like 6 little compartments. Because I feel like there's been another shot that looked fallopian tubey, but like in previous
with
episodes.
the 2 roads coming off is definitely fallopian tubey.
Fallopian. What a savory word.
Which is, again, they keep touching on fertility, but we've got nothing to do with fertility.
Well, I mean, there's been eggs and
That's
the
what I mean.
Gemma,
They
but
keep doing it, but yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got the...
Yeah, we don't know why they keep doing it, because it wasn't just Gemma having a miscarriage. It's like there's obviously baby Kia or something.
And now Jame impregnating a bajillion people, so... Just, it has to be that Cold Harbor or something to do with Gemma is going to be that James going to impregnate her, and that's just going to be disgusting.
Well, why does she need to be severed for that? Why do we...
Oh, he's... Because James is a sick fuck.
Unless
Is
it's
it more so?
need
Is it all
reason?
Now I'm jumping on that. Is it now we went from severing? Can we then insert a complete false life, like give them a fake, like Blade Runner and replicant style?
Well, there's a few things with Gemma. Was Gemma a plant? As in, is Gemma that we know just another severed personality, and they put her in the real world and they gave her a backstory, or like maybe programmed it somehow, and then they purposely put her with Mark? Or is Gemma a real person and this is just all crazy talk? But is Gemma going to have an Egan put into her brain so that she can become an Egan?
Which is very Get Out.
There's a lot of Twilight Zone talk about this episode because it's named after a Twilight Zone episode, and the episode it's named after is about a mannequin that comes to life for 1 month a year or something. That's why people are wondering whether it's Gemma got to be a real human, or whether the whole point of it is that we're going to put an Egan in them so that an Egan can go into the real world, like we can rebirth Kia. But don't know why it's Gemma, unless Gemma just happened to be the perfect test subject at the time. There's just so much speculation going on, because we really do know nothing. Technically, this season hasn't told us anything.
No.
It hasn't answered anything.
Yeah, it's not quite as drastic as, and I know we always bring it back to this, but I half expect there to be a lot of comments going, shut the fuck up, Stephen. You know, shows have to change. You can't just get your macro data refinement every episode.
A lot of people are feeling it.
Yeah, but I think
It
there
was
was...
like a
I think
50-50.
maybe it was maybe too harsh of a shift, maybe. But then I get it. Creatively, I would not be able to do this show at all. I'd be lucky to be like 20% as good if I was in charge. But like, so I get it, but it's
No, I've seen it everywhere. A lot of people are thinking this episode doesn't hold a candle to the first one, but I wouldn't want to judge that until after the season's out, because I'd rather judge whole piece as whole piece. And even then, the story does have to progress. But you could be right; it might just have been too quick of a turn.
I am definitely a person, and that's probably why maybe we clash ideas and emotional responses to these episodes, because I very much get so bored the minute things start resolving. Like, there have been times in the past where I watch a mystery or just any sort of film that provides plenty of questions and food for thought, and as it starts wrapping up, I go, oh, I can see where this is falling in line now. I don't need to watch it anymore. And I get bored.
One of my favourite viewing experiences with you was when we were watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and you were into it because you like your will they, won't they? But then the moment they started like
Fighting the man,
and then they were completely into
They were like
it.
together in like the second or third episode. I went, where's my show gone?
They're already calling each other babe. Oh, great! Like,
Yuck, that's a
like,
big turn off
hated it.
already.
Well, I still really love that show.
It was a great show.
It was a great show.
Fantastic.
But I completely understood
better.
where she was coming from with it, though. That like, if the promise is meant to be these two people might or might not get together, who knows?
Yeah, and I'm not saying like the way you guys view it is wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm someone who appreciates the longer the better. You're going to string me along forever? Great, I'm going to eat this up. Because the fun of it is the questions
I know,
for me,
maybe
not
it's
the
a
answers.
damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like Severance. I'm not getting that initial, like, funny, weird, like, black humour. But it's a point I keep harping on that we probably should save for season finale when it's filled.
God, it's so good. My wife's being held prisoner at Lumen, and I just got brain surgery in my basement.
I suppose now the last thing to touch on is just the Mark plot of moving him from one spot to the other.
Yeah, we get basically 3 bits of Mark. So we get Mark is going to meet with Miss Cobel with Devon because you mentioned it multiple times, and the show also mentions it multiple times, that we're going to go to the cabin. And
is that what you wanted to say? I'm sorry for.
Yeah, because you kept saying, so we're going to the cabin now? And I'm like, no, he's reintegrated. Why would we go to the cabin? And as of last week, Miss Cobel invented the technology. Why would we go to the cabin? She can do something to his brain to do something. Why would we go to the cabin? Immediately goes to the cabin.
I sometimes don't like to watch the previously on because the previously ons will always give you, hey, remember this specific thing.
Yeah.
But for this time we did, and it was like, the cabin. I would definitely go to the cabin.
You're like, oh shit, cabin time.
I totally get both perspectives though. I get you being like, yeah, why would we go back to something that seemed so sideways and primitive? What the fuck's the point of that? And shouldn't any Mark now also be present at the same time currently?
Yes, and it's also an interesting plot hole, I don't know, with the technology that they always have this cabin turned on to Severance mode. They don't ever turn it off. They don't ever use any kind of Glasgow block or opposite.
There's like a field, yeah. If someone who's severed walks in, they immediately... I suppose it's like, because it's so secured, why would we? It has to just be this...
Yeah, it's very much like you could definitely just turn it off afterwards, but also it's very convenient for the story and it's much easier for them. It just does seem weird, especially from like me coming from more like sci-fi and tech stuff. There's a lot of better ways they could have implemented this technology.
Sure.
Like, I'm sure software engineers and the thing are like, oh yeah, we know we do that all the time. Like, we just leave something on because why bother? Like, it's fine. It's good over there. Apart from that, it brings up a Twilight Zone reference directly. They literally say lines from the secret code between Lady and Cobel. That is a direct line from the After Hours episode. Like, just straight up quote. Does Twilight Zone exist in this world? Probably not. It's probably just a reference.
Just a fun reference.
But it is weird that, yeah, it's like a direct quote as the secret code.
Oh yeah, they must directly be feeding into that level of fandom. I mean, all the episode titles have been a little bit like odd, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't really mean anything that they've quoted.
No.
That, like, they already named the episode after it. There's already parallels between, like, Audi Mark gets to go live in the real world for once instead of being a mannequin.
Just a little Easter egg.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, they didn't have to. They just wanted to. It means nothing, probably. And with Mark getting to the cabin, the only other question, I guess, he seems to start severing when he's in the back of the trunk, and then he appears in the house.
That's just a cool transition.
Probably just a stylistic choice.
I think so.
Because otherwise, you got to get him out of the car, you got to get him in.
She says if you step back out, he'll just step back in again.
That's how I would assume it would work. It would work as the front door. I assume they just wanted to skip some time so that they didn't have
just
to
have a cool transition.
If not, it does explain how they always find notes on the people, because there's a big time delay between when you sever and when you sever on the other side. So maybe they're getting strip searched in the elevator on the way up, but then that also would be stopped.
Because she was hanging herself, so surely they would have...
Yes, that would be stopped, you would assume, by that.
You're just overthinking a cool transition, I think.
Exactly.
We were just told to check for codes. I guess we gotta let it go up.
They're like checking her body while she's hanging. Oh.
Can you stop moving?
It's one
Stop
severed guy.
kicking.
He does not know what hanging looks like. He thinks that is completely fine.
That's why the internal people aren't severed.
It's basically trying to confirm what Innie Mark said and meant is what we're doing, even though we all know she's alive.
I don't love it.
You don't love that end because we know all this now.
Yeah, we know she's alive. What was the point of reintegrating if we're going to do all this? Because they reintegrated him in episode 4, was it?
And he still is separate.
Even in this episode, he is separate. Petey could recall things. Petey was like, I know you. You are my friend. We used to do this.
But had it been a couple of days before he saw him again?
It might have been weeks for Thingo, and also his was a botched rush job that he killed him.
Yeah, with this one, it's improved, so they're taking their time.
So completely fair in universe, but also why? Like, why are we doing this from a story perspective? You said you didn't like one thing about the episode. This is my one thing.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like they've wasted my time a bit putting so much emphasis on reintegration only just to do the thing that Devon mentioned multiple episodes ago.
But is it another like subtle F you just listen to the women sometimes? But it was against Ragabi, and Ragabi said not to, so yeah.
Never listen to doctors. That's the moral of the story.
What do they know?
Never do brain surgery in your basement. Adam Scott's wonderful in this.
Which was a great line from Devon of,
I'm sorry, the wind was whistling over the hole in the back of your skull, so I didn't quite get that.
Like, the hole is huge. It's not okay.
Yeah, we just stapled over it a little bit or something.
Yeah, it's just
not
like skin
even.
flap. It's not okay, everyone.
I agree with you on that, but did we get the creepiest yet most beautiful shot of Cobel?
But that's another thing.
Rustling
Why?
with Jimmy.
You want to try and be relaxing for him and you're just standing there like...
I'm not going to explain anything. Go.
Yeah, you're Devon. You're like, okay, Cobel, you run upstairs, stand really creepily in front of the fireplace.
Let me light the candles.
I'm going to ease him in a little bit, but then I'm just going to I'm not going to tell him nothing.
For half a second, I expected this, like, low down on the iceberg, like, Devon theory, that maybe Devon's been the inside Lumen man the whole time.
Devon's the spy.
Some people do theorize that she knows a lot more than them.
I've seen one thing that says I'm pretty sus on Devon, and I'm just like, I hadn't even thought of that. Like, Devon just seems like a cool sister who people keep ignoring.
Yeah, well, she's completely committed to the role when she sees, like, Natalie, and she's basically going, fuck you, Natalie, like, the whole time.
Yeah, like, that would be an insane... Again, people love a theory, but it is hilarious that they really did not tell him or explain, hey, we're going to go meet Cobel upstairs, but don't worry, she's cool. She's probably just sitting comfortably by the fire because it's convenient.
And Mark's last thing was he had a nosebleed and just went home like normal, and now here he is.
Yes.
Way more sweatier.
Well, he just got laid, went home, and then suddenly Cobel is there. He thinks he's in hell because he had sex.
Probably, maybe that's
like,
what it's meant to be. Yeah, I don't understand why, because they have such a strong sibling bond, why she wouldn't obviously be responsive of his emotions then and
It's
be like,
drama.
oh, I need to. Yeah, I know.
Well, she
but
treats him like a
they
little
haven't-
baby as well, which is, she's like, are you okay? Do you want to come with me?
And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
I guess she's never dealt with a severed person apart from Mark that one time. Mark should film a selfie video and be like, hey man, so I'm you, I'm about to sever, Miss Cobel's upstairs, go have a chat to her, like yada yada.
What's up,
walk through.
YouTube? Welcome back.
Welcome back to Any Chat.
In the moment, we're not thinking about
We're here
this.
for drama, baby.
We're not thinking of... I mean, I wouldn't think to do that. Because their brain expects them to be just seeing the elevator again, but instead it's this. And it would just feel so weird, particularly also for Mark, because he's entering into a body that is absolutely battered.
And he's being on the outside world for the second time in his entire life. Third time, I guess, because Ortbo. But the first one was pretty brief. He looked at a photo and shouted, she's alive. This episode also ends with she's alive. So season 1, episode 9, season 2, episode 9, both end
Nice
with
touch,
she's
nice
alive.
touch.
Yeah, just a nice little... It's cute. I'm
But
glad
did
you
we
did that.
sacrifice that for a decent first meeting of the two of them?
Yeah, it could be one of those things where it's like, it's just too good, we're going to have to make it work.
This episode does feel very build-up-y.
Well, yeah, it did. It just, once again just felt like we're and if the next episode is
Drum
going to
roll.
be 76 minutes, it's going to be this grandiose. I don't know if we have a season 3. Like, there's been nothing official. Like,
Nothing's been said, but we're at least getting a season 3 surely.
yeah, because it's crazy. Because White Lotus after like one episode, we're like, season 4, it's coming. Like, you know, so they're quick to announce.
I guess they don't have to because they're Apple. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have to like be like, don't worry guys, you can watch it. People are watching it. But it does feel like a drum roll of an episode, you're right. We do get really satisfying conclusions with Irv and Dylan and realistically Miss Huang.
So do you think that's so we can now just lock in on the Mark, Gemma, gonna go get them?
Depends how long
stuff.
season 3 is, unless next week really is like a 76-minute finale where we just save Gemma and they walk into the sunset.
Because, you know, you got to know when to end your story. Like, so if it's the setup's meant to be, what is Severance? It's about people who go to work and the brain sever. And also by season 3, it's like Mark taking Lumen to court.
Yeah, you
for-
don't want to over-explain the concept either because there's so much, like I said, it's fun when you touch on these things in little moments, but if you get too deep into them, from a writing perspective, it becomes a Stephen Moffat episode where you just like lose track
Too
of what the
many
fuck you're doing.
ideas, too many
Yeah.
ideas.
I
yeah.
do feel like a lot of what they have done, if people like it or not or think it's logic, if you trace it back, it'll either be a statement about religion or about corporate work life. So I think we're still in safe hands.
Yes.
I
Yes.
do feel like it's gonna. I have this weird worry that we're gonna have a Helly Gemma like showdown together, and it's gonna be either a turning point to see Helly go full heel, and she ends up not
keeping Mark.
Yeah, like not like an actual fight, but I feel like Helly's going to be the first one to get to Gemma.
There's
Yes.
plenty of me to go around.
We have to see how Helly deals with Jame as well. and what the fuck's going on there. So next episode we'll start with...
Like, will Helly sever into Helena going down that lift, since now we don't know how these waves work?
Yeah, whether it's a switch or whether she won't be affected because it's set to Miss Casey.
But now that she's got her dad there, like, what's going to happen there?
No idea. Honestly, no idea where the show's going.
My worry is that has this whole season just been we need to get them to this point, so how can we do it? Because it's felt weirdly stretched out sometimes.
Boo-hoo, you guys complain too much.
No,
it's
no,
good.
it's just-
I'm enjoying
it's very
it. I
good.
wish I'd
It's
watched this alone.
It's just curious.
No.
I definitely have no idea where this show is going. It could end next episode. I think that'd be a weird thing for Apple to do. I would be more inclined to think that Apple would make sure they do at least 3 seasons for streamership-wise, because nothing else on Apple TV Plus is pulling in viewers.
Rule of 3 always, anyway.
Ted Lasso still comfortably sits in the top, like, 3 or 5 on the most watched.
Always,
when you look at the Apple 10, it's all the shows you've heard of, and then everything else on the platform is stuff you've never heard of.
Yeah. Like, everyone is miserable. Jame is a walking cadaver. Like, what are we doing?
We might release a video on theories. We'll see how we go. As in, like, trying to predict next episode.
Right on.
But no idea, really. They could do so many different things. And what I'm thinking they're probably going to do is be unsatisfactory. I don't think it's going to be a satisfying finale. I think it's going to be a big, massive drum roll build up to one pivotal moment, and then see in season 3.
Is this concept meant to be stretched out across this long of a storytelling where it would have been a Black Mirror, a Twilight episode?
I think it's the characters that carry it for me, though. Like, we needed this much time with these characters.
Yeah.
It's always the characters
And
that
we've now
carry
got
it,
rid of
you're
3
right.
of those characters, and we only have a couple left.
I think it's definitely going to be a big cliffhanger again. There's going to be something that's thrown in a spanner in the works for the next season. But I think it's a credit to its writing, the fact that no one single person has a clear idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think they've done that well.
I still think the show's really good.
Well, you don't act like it.
I think I do.
He's British. That's just how he sounds all the time. Anyway, what did you guys think? Let us know down below.